handsome and beautiful faces. I was thinking that because of the weather, probably the 2 or 3 are gathered. But God has made it like this. Praise God. So I welcome every one of us to our October business meeting today. Welcome. It's been a wet day, right? All over the city. But it's good that we could come. The good news today is that our speaker could not make it, not because of the rain, something else. Yeah, I say good news. I say good news because I'm going to share something with us. And when I began to think, when it entered my heart what to share with us today, I was like, maybe this was a setup after all, because I think that you will be blessed. Or not that I think, I know you will be blessed. I know definitely that you will be blessed. So, as I was thinking about it, I'm like, so if God knew that this was what he wanted to share all along, he should have just, he shouldn't even have put somebody there. Let's just come share. But it's good that we're here, and I'm believing God that we'll be blessed. Praise God. Amen. So God has been good to us. God has been kind to us. We've been running these meetings, and God has been ever faithful. Speaker upon speaker, we have been having a wonderful time. Every time we come, we get to learn something. Praise God. And to crown it all up, this is not the announcement, we'll still take the announcement later. But to crown it all up, in December, we'll have a special meeting, right? Our meeting in December will be on the 22nd of December by the grace of God. And we will have a lift up conference. It's like just an evening meeting like this, right? But it's a special meeting where we bring God's prophets to come and speak words over us and lift us from where we are. I believe that God's prophets are agents of reward. And usually, when they come into our midst like that, it's so that we can experience a gifting, so that God can do something big, right? Let me use that word in our life. So December 22nd, we'll have a special meeting. We'll be using the bigger hall on the other side because it's a special meeting. We'll have the visionary of Manifold Grace Ministry come to be a blessing to us. And it's a good thing because he's a career person, right? He's a military general, one of the Reverend speakers at the Enugu meeting. He's a personal friend to Reverend Toast. So, but if you don't know him, you will get to know him. You will get to know him that I assure you. Yes. That's why we also don't call his name, we just say the missionary. But I assure you, if there's any meeting that you should not miss for anything, don't miss that December meeting. I tell you the truth, your life will never be the same again. That one encounter, I'm telling you, it will be enough to propel you into 2025. And at the end of 2025, you'll still be looking back and say, what propelled me like this? Praise God. Amen. Praise God. Amen. So please mark down the dates, and when we release the registration links and all of that, be part of the first people to register. The reason is that that hall is not, I think, just it's about 100 to 110. But I know that the amount of people who, we have not even announced it, we have not even done anything, but there are some people who know already, right? And they are already prepping it. Release it, be one of the first to register so that we can, because at some point we would have to close the registration, right? Because of the meeting. I'm sure you will be a great time also. You need that kind of motivation in these challenging times that we are in. So today we're talking about growth strategies. Growth strategies. I think we can get started. Right? Praise God. So when we talk about growth, think simply of how you can take something that is small, right, and you can turn it into something that is big. That's really what growth is about. Taking something that is small and making it into something that is big. And the same way we talk about living things growing, right? In the same way we can talk about the growth of a business or the growth of somebody's career. But living things, they can simply grow by maybe a baby can simply, if you give the baby the right food, the baby will just grow. But when we talk about business or career, right, the growth is a little bit different, right? Uh, Growth for business and career can be a little more complex, right, than just having just a normal growth where you just feed somebody and then they grow. Sometimes you even look at living things, you just, plants just along the road, it looks like they just grow by themselves by default. But it's a little bit different when you come to a business or a, or your career. The growth cannot just be just by coincidence or just say by default that this thing will grow. But the beautiful thing is that anything can grow, or any and everything can grow, right? Whatever you have in your hand, right, it can grow. So let's think about the core thing or the core part of our discussion today is how do you take a small service business, right? Like a tailoring business, like hairdressing, just any kind of business. How do you make it into something that grows? How do you take it to personally? How do you grow it, right? How do you take a small trade that you are trading something? How do you make that particular thing grow? That's what our discussion will be focused on. Or if you're in a career, how do you grow from an entry level career position, right, to become a senior level personnel in an organization? I'll hinge this discussion this evening on three major things, right? I'll hinge it on three things and I'll talk about it with practical examples, right? This is a business fellowship. I'll use practical examples to talk about these things. I'll talk about courage, vision for it, about courage, and then I'll talk about teamwork. Um, so the first thing I'll talk about is vision. But bear in mind, right, before I talk about this thing, let me tell you a little bit about my background so that you know that I'm eminently qualified to talk about this thing. Sometimes the reason why this is important is that sometimes when you go for a business meeting like this, somebody will say he's talking about growth because he has hit somewhere, and you can talk about this growth. But if you do not know that, there are a lot of people in this room who know very well, but just so that if you do not know, I resigned my job in 2014. I joined my friend. He wanted to start a business. He told me that this business, when a competition was a federal government competition, Tech Launch back then, by then Minister of Communication, Bola Johnson. They called that program Tech Launchpad. So I looked at the beautiful prospect of that business, and then I resigned. I did not have any problem. Before I resigned my job, I just won Top Performer Award, one of the 25 top performers. I met a senior manager, they shook me, they gave me gifts. Then I was really restless. So my friend came to tell me and said, let's do this thing. And I said, okay, no problem, come join us, let's do this thing. I said, fine. So I went and I joined. So January 24th, this was December 2013. But at that time, I had expected it's not how, in fact, the Lord had asked me also at that time to sow a particular seed. The Lord would just slam you with a huge harvest, right? That's the harvest I was expecting. But it didn't turn out like that. So I joined, and then when we, got into the program, that beautiful things, we had a final pitch competition, and all of that. At that time, we wanted to raise, see, the figures in my head, wanted to raise $1.4 million. We did not raise 1,400 naira, and then they drove us out of that place that we were. Now, I've resigned my job, and I had a wife. And now I'm now in this business that we have started that we're hoping for $1.4 million. But now we are on ground zero. If you did science, you know absolute zero. We're now on absolute zero, right? But the beautiful thing is that he that is down needs feeling for. We're already down. The only other way we can go is up. So we began to build from there. Now, I just laid this background so that you can know that wherever you are in your race or in your journey today, at least I know many of you are not on ground zero. At least, maybe you're on step 1, maybe you're on step 2, But here I was, absolute ground zero. And before I left my work, my wife had called me and told me something. When women talk, she called me and she told me that this your eagerness to leave this work that is paying you, that we are fine by living comfortable life, we go to Ikeja City Mall every Sunday when we close church. This eagerness to leave this thing, I've left you for promise me and say, I say that one, I promise you. Because in my mind was that God cannot be so bad that if you start something because my rent cycle at that time was a December rent cycle. God cannot be so wicked that he will leave us from January to December. He will not even give us anything to be able to pay this small house rent. Well, your guess is as good as mine. So we're talking about growth strategies. So I said all of that to just let you know that wherever you are in your journey, God is faithful. Wherever you are in your journey, that thing can grow and will grow if you do these things that we've discussed today. So the first thing is talk about vision. Now, usually when you talk about vision, people expect, some of the sophisticated mind. Just think about it like that. It is simply having a picture in your mind. You have a picture of the future, how you hope the future will be, or how you expect that the future will be. Now, everything starts from here. The reason is that if you don't have a picture, there is nothing to even that you are aspiring to. But when you have a vision, that means that you are aspiring to something. Now, in our own organization today, we have a vision, right? A vision, like a vision statement that is written. But that is not really in the heart of the founders of the business. It is not that thing that is really guiding the heart of the founders. There is a picture that is really, really guiding. You see, because sometimes when you write down a vision, people read it in words. Please listen very attentively because I want to express something, but I know what I want to express. I'm trusting God that my vocabulary will be able to carry what I want to express. When you write a vision, right, the person who reads the vision is reading a statement. But that vision comes from a picture. Because human beings, we don't think in words, we think in pictures. If I say cat now, immediately it's not CAT that comes to your mind, it's the picture of the cat. Because that's how we are framed. It means, therefore, that the image, the vision, the picture is more important than what is written.
what is written to be able to explain, right? Or to be able to convey what the picture is. What is written sometimes may accurately convey the picture, sometimes it may not. But the most important thing is that there must be that picture. If that picture is lacking, there will be a problem. So there must be a picture. So yes, when you write down your vision and all of that, it is good, right? But don't worry at all whether what is written is accurately describes the picture or not. The most important thing is that there must be a picture. Now, the easiest way to get a clear vision, right, is to expose your mind to possibilities. Remember, I said that a vision is not just what is written, right? A vision is simply the picture, right, of maybe a preferable future or something like that, right? Now, the best way is to expose the mind. Now, if I tell you and I say, the moment I entered into Radisson Hotel today, I could smell freshly brewed coffee. What does that mean to you? Except you know what freshly brewed coffee smells like, it means absolutely nonsense to you. In fact, if I said it now, you are not somebody who takes coffee, who knows coffee. What I just said is not, does not mean anything. You can't imagine it. The reason is every time we converse, what your mind does is to take that conversation and convert it into pictorial form, right? That's how you are able to, decipher the words, and then you are able to make meaning out of it. Good. If somebody tells you that my vision is to have a big farm, you see that big farm that he's talking about, it is only relative to what he has seen or what his mind has been exposed to as a big farm. Have you noticed that probably when you were small, except for maybe the Gen Zs or those who are a little bit younger, when you were small, if you attended maybe a local church, maybe an Orthodox church, the church looked big. Now that you are grown, if you go back to that church, you're like, is this our church? I don't know if anybody has experienced it. Like, you mean this where all of us used to hold service then? But it was big to you then. How come it is now small to you? You know what has changed? Exposure. You have seen some bigger halls. You have seen some bigger churches, some mega churches. So when you now go back to that place and you see it, it's looking like it's my primary school. One day I saw I said, why did the classes look like huts like this? But these classes used to be big, we used to run everywhere. But how does it look like I can step on the classes? It was so small. I was like, my God, why would they just build hot? What has changed? My pictures. That's why we are not doing this business fellowship in a school classroom. It's about pictures. When you walk into a place like this, your pictures will be different. That's why if we want to do, well, we're talking about the December meeting and what we're going to do. The first place I went to, my wife bears witness, is Marriott. To go and check. You see, this guy, where are you going to leave money first? His first pictures. That's how I see it. I do not see it anything less than that. In my mind, this is least kind of place we can be holding this kind of meeting. Other than this place, it has to be something super pictures. So if you have the right picture, right? So if you have the right picture about that business or about your career, you're on the path to growth because now you have something that you are looking forward to, something that is guiding you. If you don't have the right picture, what it means is that you'll be fighting to make progress, but nature is not designed like that. You can't go towards what you cannot see. It's not possible. If in fact you landed there, you will automatically reverse. The reason said, if you take the pastor of a church that all in his mind is a 200 congregation pastor, if you put him as pastor of a mega church with 5,000 congregation, he will be doing everything right until that congregation reduces to 200. Everything right until the congregation reduces to the picture in his heart. So if the pictures in your heart are not right, you will be working hard, you will be doing everything. Everything that everybody will be doing, you'll be doing it, but you'll be limited. If you have a hairdressing business, the picture in your heart about that hairdressing business is what will be manifesting. If you see that hairdressing business as a business where people come and say, how much did they make here? 5,000. Ah, no, I cannot pay 5,000. It's 1,500 I can pay. That's how they become. If you see that business as a business where people are saying that people are traveling from UK and say, anytime I go to Lagos, Nigeria, I need to stop over there and make my hair. That's what that thing will become. It's about pictures, right? So if you want to have the right picture, go to the right places. Expose the mind, because the mind can only see, once the mind expands, it cannot contract back. Right? So you need to feed the mind with the right pictures. You need to feed the mind with the right picture. The picture that we set, for instance, in our company, we have not near that picture. Everything we're doing now is a means to that picture. And how did we get that picture? We got that picture by looking at another global company. To interpret a vision, you can say, this is what, or this is the, if you want to grow that business, or you want to grow your career, or you want to do anything, is to have a picture. If you are in a career, you need to be able to look at one or two persons and say that the picture, and as long as you keep that picture in your mind, something will be happening internally that will be propelling you, towards that. Verse 1 to 6. And God had this conversation about whether he was going to have a son, he was not going to have a son, and all of that. Now, Abraham was telling God, all this promise that you are promising me, is it not this Eliezer, the servant of my house, that will become my heir and everything? And then God said, no. God said, no, that's not what it will be. Then God told Abraham, go and stand outside, right, and look at the stars. What did you think that God was trying to do to him? God was trying to form pictures in his heart. If he saw that picture and the pictures were right, he could have something to reference in his mind, right? That's what God simply did to him. If you look at Genesis chapter 31, what's happening? Okay. If you look at Genesis chapter 31, that's where maybe we can look at that one. You know the story of Abraham. If you look at Genesis 31 from verse 9, look at from verse 9. We'll not be doing many scripture reading, but this one is just important. Okay. Okay, thus God had taken away the cattle of your fathers and given them to me. Verse 10. So we'll just read it up into verse. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream. And behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-streaked, speckled, and grizzled. Go to verse 11. And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-streaked, speckled, and grizzled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth to thee. Verse 13. And the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out of this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. Jacob was explaining. See, let me take you back. Jacob was explaining to his wives when they were about to leave Laban's house. If you don't read this verse, you will not know how Jacob made it. You will not know how Jacob made it. You will think it just happened. But Jacob was now in retrospect, explaining to his wives and children, now that they were about to leave, and say that the way that I got these riches and all of these things that I have is that there was a time that God gave me a dream, as it were. He saw a vision. In the vision, he saw that the rams mated and all that they gave birth to were ring-speckled and grizzled and all of that, right? And eventually that's what played out, right? Then, of course, before the event of where he peeled the poplar trees and laid them in front of the cattle and all of that, but before that time, he had seen this vision. So this vision was the guiding light, right? That gave Jacob all that he had. It came from this vision. Before then, he was being cheated, Laban was just playing with his head. Served for 7 years for this one place. After 14 years, he had nothing of his own, right? But it takes time for vision to also manifest. In the case of Jacob, at least you know that he spent at least 20 years in Laban's household, right? So, but the first thing is that you must be guided by a sound vision. You must have the right pictures, simply put, right? So that vision is not looking complicated. The second thing I talked about, if you want to grow, whether in your business or in your career, the second thing that you must have is courage. Another courage, I'll talk about 4 different things. The first thing is you must have the courage to leave your comfort zone. You must have the courage to leave your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to die. Don't be afraid to die. And I use die here, not like physical death, right? Except a corn of wheat falls down to the ground and dies. The Bible says what? It abides in the ground. It is not the same seed that dies that comes out, and it is not in the same measure. If you plant one seed of corn, if the corn grows and germinates, is it one seed that will be on the stalk? No. You will never resurrect in the same proportion that you died. Never. So don't be afraid to die. If you want to grow, the first thing, under courage, the first thing under courage is you must not be afraid. You must have the courage to leave your comfort zone. When God called Abraham, he called him out and said, leave this place, depart to a land that I will show you. The reason why many people will not grow in their business or in their career is that they are afraid to leave their comfort zone. You are comfortable and it's fine. But because growth comes with pressure. See, if a child the child should walk. The child must apply pressure, right, on the legs to stand, and then apply pressure to make those movements. That's actually growth. Now, if the child is not able to apply those pressure to stand and then to walk, after a certain time, the parents become concerned. See, what is happening? They even start helping the child to stand, hold the child, walk and all of that. So, have the courage to leave your comfort zone. And your comfort zone is relative. Your comfort zone is very, very relative to where you are today, right? Then you may be doing well in your comfort zone, but if you want to grow beyond that, you must have the courage to leave your comfort zone. The second thing is, have the courage to set big goals. The way that I wrote it, right, is have the courage to set big. Have the courage to set big. It's called B, right? HAG, right? Big, airy, audacious goal. If you read Jim Collins' book, he talked about his. He talked about because usually, if you don't set big goals, there are places that when you enter, nothing even changes. How do I say this now? This is not very far from the courage to leave your comfort zone. There's a way you can set some goals for yourself. Even you know that with or without the help of God, we will achieve this goal. If you give me primary 6 homework now, well, I'll pass, I'll get 10 over 10. That's the point. That sometimes you can set a goal for yourself, but that goal is not really a big hug. It's not really an audacious goal. It's not a goal that can shift your mind. It doesn't even force you to do anything, right? Good. So you must have the courage to set very big goals for yourself. Like I said, it was introduced by Jim Collins in his book when he wrote about visionary companies that have done great things. How they can set ambitious targets, and then how they can use that to propel an organization forward. And in that writing, he talked about sometimes how that can make all the difference in the world, particularly for organizations. Right? If you just set a goal that is not anything. I remember that, and we were having this discussion with some members of our senior management team. I was talking about one of the retreats that we had. And we had said that we wanted to make our company one of the first 50 to 100 best places to work in Nigeria. Such that if they wanted to list 50 to 100 organizations and say that are best places to work in, that we're going to be listed, it's a very big and audacious goal, giving the likes of Chevron and Shell, right? But sometimes these things also can be relative in that I may not pay exactly the amount that organization pays, but if they sit my employee down and sit the employee of that organization, the other person will attest and say, except for salary difference, I will pick this organization for anything. You get the logic, right? So you must be willing to set big goals for yourself, right? So if you are not able to set big goals, if you lack the courage to set big goals, then there can be no growth there. Now, if you have a small business, and I'm very, very particular about small business because one of the most difficult things that people can reason or people can think about is how do you take a small business and grow it? In fact, by the grace of God, next year, maybe April, will have an SME conference, right? Where we just bring some businesses together. Maybe we'll use the bigger hall before using Radisson. We'll have an SME conference. We'll talk about some of the things that really, really pertain, to small businesses. But how do you take a small business where you are making shoes? How do you scale it? How do you grow that business? You must have the courage to set big goals. When you set big goals, people will look at you and say that, this guy, are you crazy? How do you think that from here you want to be exporting shoes to America, or you want to be making shoes? Imagine that you are making shoes now, and you set a big goal and say that within the next 5 years, I'll be one of those who are producing shoes for Louis Vuitton. This guy, we had this guy. But then, if you set that kind of goal, you have the picture. The next thing that will come to your mind while others are criticizing is that you will suddenly sit down and say, well, how can this happen? The moment you enter that place of how can this happen, you're on the right path. Because very few people will get to how can this happen. They will not even give that thought a chance at all. But when you give that picture a chance, the picture, right? A chance, and you can set that goal. And you now come to the point where you are even thinking about how can you make it happen. You're on the right path. Okay? So be willing to set big goals. So the next thing is still on that courage, is the courage to innovate. The courage to innovate. We're talking about growth strategies. We talk about you must have the right pictures, which is vision, right? And then we said that you must have courage. Under courage, we said the first thing is you must have the courage to leave your comfort zone. You must have the courage to set big goals, right? Don't be afraid, even though people will laugh at you, right? Set big goals. There's one of my friends who was discussing with me, I think over the weekend. My wife knows that my friend very well. He used to say that when we started our first job, then we were just young out and everything like that. So we started. So he saw me browsing the internet during break, and I was looking for cars to buy. He said, "Don't buy car. This guy, you can't buy a Nigerian used car. You are looking to." So he said, "This guy is not even serious. You can't buy a Nigerian used car." And anyway, this our salary. Even if you save it for 1 year to 2 years, you cannot buy a car. But I bought it. I bought it from America and I shipped it to Nigeria. This thing works. It works. I'm telling you. The thing is, I'm not saying that on the first day it will work, but if you keep at it, if you keep the right picture in your mind, right? If you have the courage to leave your comfort zone, to set big goals, right? It will happen. And then I talked about the next thing is the courage to innovate. A lot of people have no courage to innovate. Let me tell you, the company that we built, everything revolves around innovation. You know why? We provide a technology solution. We are not the first in the world to provide that kind of solution. So at the time that we started, we built a software and we were buying hardware from Europe, right? So when we're buying hardware from Europe, we now later saw that the the hardware was not giving us the kind of thing that we wanted here because our terrain was different. Let me tell you what most minds will do at that point. You shut down and start something else. But if you have the courage to innovate, you will look at that solution and say, what can I do? See, innovation is not the same thing as creation. You don't have to create. You can create if you have the opportunity to. But innovation simply means take what exists already and simply put it in another form, add to it. Just do it can even be taken away from it. It's innovation. Innovation doesn't necessarily mean to add, right, or to start from afresh. It can be to add to something, it can be to present it differently. That's it. That's it. So, if you want to grow that business, you must innovate. Now, let me tell you why many people don't innovate. And, unfortunately, it happens. We do not take time to think. See, I've said it before, it's good to go to church. I went to church today. You must also go to whatever field that you are in, right? If they have a gathering in that field, or maybe they have conference in that field, or if there are materials in that field, you must be reading or you must be attending, you must be a part of it. You know how Christians think. The way Christians think, let me show you. Andrew now is not a medical doctor, but he will be praying, and in his mind, he will be thinking that the next breakthrough innovation in medicine, God will plant it in his mind. How? Forget about it, it cannot happen. The reason why it cannot happen is that supposing God wanted to communicate that innovation to you or that idea, you don't even have the terminology to explain it. So it can't happen. It can't happen. They have brought it from heaven. Like this, they put it in front of you. You will not understand it. Because you don't have the right terminologies for that. You don't. It's simple, right? So it means that if Andrew was looking at innovating in medicine, the first thing is he has to understand what currently exists in medicine, right? He has to go read, understand what do they have now, right? And that's really what many times research is all about. But many times in our own part of the world, research is just completely embarrassed. It's a problem. We don't really take time to think through it and everything like that. Now, when I was doing my master's program, I remember I had a serious problem because I did my first degree in physics. Then I did systems engineering in my master's degree. So when I did systems engineering, the person I was supposed to work with when I was doing my master's degree as, my master's program, wanted me to work something around biomedical engineering line, like that, because that was his concentration. So he called me one day and said, Ola, I said, sir, he said, go and think about, he said, athletes. He said, when they play football and everything like that, he said that when they sprain their leg or something like that, they usually would take ice block, take ice, or they do ice spray or take block and put on their leg. I said, yes, sir. He said, can we build an electronic device that can replace, I'm laughing because I know where I'm going to my mind. can we build an electronic device that, can replace that thing? I said, okay, sir. So I went. So when I went, and in truth, is how many of us believe. I did not give it so much thinking. I just went and did some small reading and everything like that. Of course, the idea about compression, how AC works or how refrigerator works and all of that. So I simply brought that principle to him one of the mornings and said that, based on this principle, if we do like this, and then my supervisor looked at me and said, this guy, you must be very dull. Are you suggesting by any means that we should carry fridge and put on? He said, you must be extremely dull. In fact, he said, the way I'm looking at you, there's no brain in your head. That's the way he put it. And he said it in Yoruba. So when I went home, I said, but I'm smarter than this now. How can they tell me that there's no brain in my head? That's, that your conscience can be altered in two ways, right? There's a positive way that your conscience can be altered, that it can propel you to success. That was what happened to me. My conscience was altered because I felt injured by those comments. In fact, the way he sent me out of his office was too embarrassing, so I left. When I came back and I saw him, and I began to discuss with him what I found out, because I now later went to read and found some thermoelectric devices that can produce hot and cold on my side, and began to discuss. He sat down on his chair. He said, "Oh my, you think carry?" That's like you are beginning to read, you are beginning to think. Now, that's how innovation works. If you just think about it on the surface, nothing comes. Nothing. That's why sometimes even the people in my office, they tell me that this thing where I tried it is not possible. Me, I know that they have not thought about it. They simply tried to name this to this place and told you it's not working. This thing is not staying on this thing. If you think long enough on it, this thing can stand like this without any support. You have just not thought about it. Say it's not working, it's not working. He has not thought about it. If you think about it long enough, you will find how to make it work. And sometimes that's where innovation comes from. Sometimes innovation comes as flash of lightning, right? We talked about, like I was saying, Andrew was praying. Innovation can come as a flash of light. Somebody can be sitting somewhere, right? And suddenly a flash will hit his mind. It's innovation. Do it like this. That's clear innovation. But many times, if you sit down long enough to think about that problem, to meditate on it, there will be innovation there. I'm telling you, so if you are in a small business, right? Like I said, your business is hairdressing. You have a small salon. Don't spend all your time on Facebook and Instagram just chatting. Spend some time to think about the business. That's the problem many people have. And you see, looking at Instagram and looking at different hairstyles, does not mean you are thinking. You can be winding away time and just be appreciating people say, "Oh, this hair is fine. Oh, I like this one." And that's how many people think. You think that because you are looking at something in your field, it means that you are really looking. You are not looking. Right? You are seeing, but you are not looking. Or how do they say it? You are looking, but you are not seeing. Right? But if you begin to look well enough, begin to ask questions, right? And like we talked about innovation, we talked about medicine. How do you innovate when you don't even know what exists? That's the problem many people have. Many Christians have that problem. They don't even know the one that exists. How do you innovate? That's if we say innovation is just a slight improvement improvement on what exists, and you don't even know what exists, how can you innovate? You can't innovate anything. But many times Christians are too lazy to even study what exists, to even be able to look at what exists before we now start talking about innovating. And if you are in a career here, right, you work in an organization. If you are not going to innovate and bring new ideas to the table of how things can be done, well, if the organization promotes every 4 years, maybe they can promote you. Maybe if your organization works like a civil service, where every 4 years, whether you produce or you don't produce, we just promote you, maybe you can get promotion. But in most other organizations, how fast you rise, right, depends on how much you're able to contribute. So if you're able to innovate properly, right, then of course you can. So you must have the courage to innovate. Don't be afraid of changing the status quo. Never be afraid of changing the status quo. Don't look at it and say, that's how it has been. I told you the story of how we innovated. See, we say it and we keep saying it. If the equipment we were buying from Europe in 2015, if it had worked, we would not have innovated as much as we have done today. Our problem was that we bought equipment and the equipment were not working as we expected. And in the cases where they worked, when they developed faults, right? My wife can bear witness, even if I'm the one putting in that crusade that day, if the customer calls and say, this thing has stopped working, and the way the customer will tear and everything, you have to leave that crusade and answer that customer problem first. You know. So we did a project one time, or maybe I've said it before. It was a national project. We did it all over the country, just in maybe about 13 locations. When we finished, we now came back and sat down together and said, gentlemen, if God answers our prayer like this, we will all be dead before we are 50 years. Because this one is not scalable. That conversation forced us to say, what can we do? You see how the mind is challenged. What can we do so that if we have money, we will not be dead by the time we are 50 years? It was that conversation that forced us to innovate and make something that was proprietary to us out of what we were buying from Europe. But you must take some time, think over it, understand what exists. Because sometimes, again, to innovate, if maybe you are in the sciences and all of that, it may mean that you understand things from the first principles. If you don't understand it, if you are used to shortcuts, forget about innovation. If you are just used to shortcuts, forget about innovation. You must be detailed, understand what it is. So, again, back to your small business. Your small business is, like I said, hairdresser, right? You must understand that business thoroughly. Understand what you are doing, understand what other people are doing. And think about why are we doing it like this? For instance, I don't know much about hairdressing. Maybe usually if you go to do your hair, they will say they wash it before they set it. I don't know. That's what I know as far back. You need to sit down and think, why must you wash it before setting it? Is it possible to set it before washing it? Those kind of foolish questions is what bets innovation. Because you may be surprised that people are just doing something because it has always been done like that, including big organizations. One of the major providers of the solution that we provide all around the world, right, has begun to make devices like our devices. We saw it this year. These companies probably created before I was born, but they were making their devices in a certain way. We bought devices that look like those devices. Then we saw that this thing was not working in Africa. and then began to innovate around it. Last year I went to Pakistan because there was a company that wanted to do something and said that they were not going to use this other global solution because they wanted it to work in the format in which ours work. So I kind of think that that company thought about it again and said that we can begin to do it like this. But if you don't think and challenge the status quo, everything will just keep going the same way. Ask yourself, why do they wash before setting? Why is it impossible to set before washing? You must begin to ask those questions. Those are the questions that lead to innovation. If you do your, think about any kind of business. If you're a mechanic, you need to ask yourself some questions. Why do they have to lose tire before they fix bearing? It is in asking some of those questions that's where innovation comes from. Somehow they just say that there's this guy, if you take your vehicle to him, he will fix the bearing without losing the tires. Do you know these days I noticed something? My tire I had a flat tire when I was I had a flat tire when I was and I noticed that the guy who worked on the car just asked me to park in a certain way. So he did not lose the tire. He just did something and then
as a rubber like
exactly. He just did it. I was like, this is innovation. When before, if your tire, is bad and if they will remove the tire, they will do something. Okay. Now they just fix it. He said, "Oh, yeah, much shit." I said, "How much?" He said, "You want to?" I said, yeah, I can do this work now. If it's just to choke rubber and pull it out and trim it, I can do this. Right? But that's innovation. You don't have to spend 1 hour doing it. Right? And the problem that many small businesses have is, or many personalized service business, is that how do you go? I think Toby will have had that discussion before. If you're, for instance, a fashion designer and you're a tailor, if I bring my clothes to you, I want you to sew that clothes, right? If my wife brings her clothes to you, she wants you to sew the clothes. Now, how do you grow if everybody wants you to sew their clothes? Tuesday. So, as that business begins to grow, you begin to put structure around that thing and let people know that you don't sew. You only put the structure for sewing together. So maybe you need to put a process. I say, once this person is measured, right? This is how we cut the clothes, right? This person cuts the clothes, this person does this. And then puts a kind of system around it. If you tie yourself to the actual production, you cannot grow that business. So that's why they say that if you are in a business, you start working in the business because you have maybe your own first employee. But little by little, you begin to work on the business and come out from working in the business. Because somebody must be thinking for that business to grow. But if you are not working in the business, not on the business, that business will grow. So you must then come out. You are the one who is the organ, right? But maybe you have 2, 3 apprentices or people who are working with you. You must step out of that business, begin to work on the business. Say, no, not like this. So when customers come, while you are there, if you have a hair making salon, hair cutting salon, you're a barber, and you have people, you cannot be cutting everybody if you want that business to grow. At some point, you say, see, now come, you strap the person and everything, say, okay, you can cut him. And you say, okay, you know, go cut me. Say, no, it's the one that, because he cuts better than me. The guy will be comfortable. You are there. That's how you can employ 2, 3. That's how you can open another outlet. But if everybody must wait for you to cut their hair, okay, you are not growing. You cannot even grow. Because how many hair can you cut? even if you start from morning till night, how many head? I don't want to say head. Praise God. Okay, and finally, you must have the courage to reinvent. Right? Reinvention is a little bit different from innovation. Reinvent simply means that at some point, every business will reach maybe a turning point, a point of inflection or something like that. You must have the courage to reinvent the business. Otherwise, the business may die. In your career too, you can be in a career plan. And those who are in careers who have gone a little bit ahead will know it. You studied accounting, right? So that you can be an auditor, or so that you can be, whatever it is. And as things progressed, you saw that really there's no much growth path in this audit type, but maybe you need to reinvent and go and add something else, maybe another degree or another course, so that you can move away from audit to tax, like Ogadejore. That's an innovation. You must reinvent yourself at some point, right? I told you now about myself. I'm called a technical guy, right? I have a background in physics, systems engineering. When I started out my career, I was a system administrator. Now I've called business. I've reinvented myself into business. I read business, I do business courses, I do finance courses, and everything like that, right? And people like, okay, they try to teach us some things about tax too. So we have, all of those knowledge. So at some point for growth, you must reinvent yourself. You started out like this, but now you need to end like this, so you must reinvent yourself. So we talked about all those things, right? And finally, reinvention is under courage. You must have the courage to reinvent. So we talked about courage to leave your comfort zone, courage to set big goals, courage to innovate, courage to reinvent, right? If you don't reinvent, you will die. That's the truth. That business will die, or your career will stagnate. You just don't go like that. Anybody above 50 does not work in this organization. You go at 50, you are retired. If you retire at 50, you know there's a problem. And you don't have anything to do. Many people are caught up in that way. Finally, it's teamwork. Get the right team. Get the right team. And these are mostly to those who are in business, right? Mostly. If you have any business that you are running, get the right team. Remember David's mighty men? Yeah, David had the right team, right? In fact, the Bible talks about his mighty men, talked about 30 of them, right? And even among that 30, there were 3 of those special mighty men, right? They were really, really mighty men. Even in the days of Saul, right? They talked about some men of Benjamin, 700 of them. Do you know what the Bible says about them? They could sling, right? And aim at a strand of hair and not miss. Oh boy, that's the kind of team that you need, right? So if you do business, you need the right people. Sometimes they may not have all the skills, but they can learn from you. But you have the right spirit, then they should be with you, right? But you need to put together the right team for you to be able to scale in your business. For out of time, let's bow our heads and just say, Father, thank you. We give you praise and glory for all that you have done for us today. Thank you, precious Redeemer. Thank you for the lessons that we have learned. Thank you, Lord. 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 We give you praise. We give you praise. We give you praise. Just go ahead and thank the Lord and say, Lord, we thank you. Blessed be your name forevermore.